question?
Yeah, I had a question regarding the comment you made about social media becoming editorial platforms. I think for you're seeing a lot with brands using Facebook and Twitter for exclusive content. You know, on Twitter, someone has a Twitter account, they're not necessarily writing a tweet that includes a link back to their website. On Facebook, you're seeing a lot of brands outsourcing vendors to create pretty much microsites within their Facebook page. Now, for bloggers and for people that run websites, you're essentially taking traffic away from your blog and site to these social media outlets, which has value, but I'm curious what the panel thinks on the perfect formula between exclusive original content on social media and also trying to attract those people back to your original web property.
Well, I'm happy to address it first. I think that there's not necessarily a perfect formula, but I think that it's always all about striking the balance. So I work with brands. Some of them do have editorial voices. And certainly we want for there to be the balance of great editorial content that engages people where they are, who might not have necessarily clicked through, along with kind of direct calls to action for those people to click through, let's say for Blue Fly to read their blog fly paper, or to click back directly to a cashmere boutique, whatever the case may be. So, I always counsel clients that you don't want everything, every status update or every tweet to have kind of an objective. You don't necessarily want every tweet or every status update to be directing traffic back to your site, because I feel like it's kind of overload for your followers or for your fans. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess I'll quickly add to that again. I always see Twitter accounts as having a particular voice. You're putting a voice to your blog, right? And that voice may at times provide a teaser with a link to some content that you have, but you're also kind of representing yourself and your experiences, and there's a lot of different ways to do that, both in the bio and via your tweets. You're representing your perspective. And of course, within 140 characters, you can only do so much, but I think you can continue to give people little snippets of your perspective and your view on the world and your view on fashion via Twitter, and then sprinkle in kind of the teasers with the traffic drivers. Because ultimately, Twitter is a real-time information network, so people are going to be looking at these things on their phone. They're going to be checking back in on it throughout the day, and you want something interesting to be popping up for people. When they're sitting at lunch, or I always try to put it in kind of like who are the people who are following you, and what would they want to see. So thinking about it from that perspective.
I think it also might be the vertical that you work in. Like, if you're a type of company that doesn't really have a lot of updates and new promotions and sales and stuff like that to post up, then I don't think you really should be that posting like every day. But I think in retail, at least, you have things to work with. Like, you can post constant updates and constant, promotions. So I think that speaks to the balance aspect. It's like you have to work with like what you have and make sure you're not over tweeting and under tweeting, depending on what field you're working into.
Yeah, I'm definitely not encouraging people to tweet. Like our limit is 48 times a day. I think we allow people to tweet, but it's just about having a varying amount of content, and Twitter's global too. So think about, you have followers that are U.S. based, you have followers who may be in a lot of other countries. So thinking about when they receive that information, and there's no set perfect number of the number of times to tweet, but just keeping it varying and interesting is really important.
We have 2 more questions. We're going to do Kate and Karen in the back.
I can't name specific names, but I've heard specific examples and instances where a brand will spend, say, $30,000 or $40,000 on a social media campaign of one kind or another, and they will get $1,000 in sales, and so they feel like it's a failure. And my question is, are they doing something wrong with their campaign, or are they measuring it wrong? Are they measuring the results incorrectly?
Maybe both. It's hard to say without having kind of a tangible example, but one of the things that I see often is brands who are again, using platforms in ways that don't necessarily speak to their objectives as a brand for the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think about this from a number of different facets since we now have monetization products on Twitter. You know, from like an organic perspective, yeah, there's obviously a number of different things you can do, and there's a number of different ways that you can really evaluate what that conversion was. But I also find that with a lot of brands, it just depends on what they're putting value on. Like, even though that in their minds and kind of their maybe more traditional way of determining what the value of that campaign was, maybe they got, you know, another 5,000 targeted followers, which to me, you know, a followers list, if you have the targeted correct people following you, you know, that's kind of an evergreen, you know, list that you're going to be able to continue to market to in long term that has a specific value. So from a monetization perspective, you know, if a company is directly paying a social media platform to do a campaign, I can only speak for Twitter, but I mean, I know we do very specific kind of run-throughs of all of our campaigns to look at legitimacy and success based on what has thus far been successful with the brands. So.
And for back to Old Spice, their goal actually to go to YouTube was not like we want to increase sales. It's actually we want to get like X number of impressions for these videos. Like if you can reach like 50 million views, then we'll be happy, right? So the agencies had that to work with. Consequently, YouTube, Old Spice, you know, the order also went up yourself afterwards. So it was a nice, you know, thing. But to your question about, you know, investment versus the sales you make, like I think with social media, with YouTube, for instance, like you have to convince the client that it's, you know, this is its views that we're after, mentions, you know, likes, all that kind of stuff.
We have one last question from Karen.
So is this on? Okay. This is actually a Twitter question and it's a personal question. So last year, I somehow got hacked and my Twitter started sending out porn spam to thousands of people, and then I got suspended and I called it Jordan rehab for 30 days, and I couldn't get into my account, and I was going berserk trying to find a way to tweet, and I was going through crazy withdrawal, like I'm train spotting. Okay. And I was filling out that ticket every single day. I was emailing any possible way. There was nothing I could do to get out of tweet app for 30 days. And I just need to know if this, God forbid, ever happens to me again, who can I talk to? I was so bad. I thought I was on a plane. I was 2 minutes away from getting on a plane and grabbing my flip cam and walking into Twitter and being like, stop throwing me out. I didn't do this.
Well, I'll say a few things. One, you know, Twitter grew very, very quickly. Our not our followers, but you know, our user base grew very, very quickly, and as a result, we kind of had to catch up from a staffing perspective, from a support perspective. I actually used to work in the trust and safety group, which handles a lot of the kind of like hacked stuff, and you know, it's actually one of the largest groups in Twitter. There's over 30 people in that group just specifically working on tickets and things like that. I would say at the timing of your incident, we probably had like 5 people in that group handling, you know, 20 to 30,000 tickets. So I'm sorry you had that experience. We definitely, both in trust and safety and just in support, have really beefed up, obviously, our support agents and things like that. So the turnaround time typically on a ticket is 48 hours for a response. And then I guess if it happens again, I'm just Francesca at twitter.com. Just let me know. Happy to help. So you know, hopefully that won't happen to you again. We've also gotten very, very vigilant on shutting spammers down very early. So you know, you don't see those incidents as frequently anymore.
Thank you guys. I think we learned a lot about using both to drive traffic and the value of both. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.